The 2025 NFL Draft is in the books, and coming up here on today's show, I'm going to give you the Raiders 2025 NFL Draft grades. The first time Pete Carroll and John Spytek got to be able to do it their way. Huge shout out to everybody that tuned in for the entire draft at the Raiders Report. We probably had over 400,000 people join us over the past 3 days. Raider Ron, an absolute legend, and I think that this draft class has the potential to be pretty legendary as well. What we're going to do here is I'm just going to give you my grade for every single one of the players that the Raiders did end up bringing in, and I'm going to give you an A, B, C, D, or F. A, it's great. B, it's good. C, it's average. D, it's bad. F, it's a fail. Before I give you each grade here for the Las Vegas Raiders, last year, this video that I am recording, our 2024 NFL Draft Grades video, we ended up getting 418 subs. I am somebody that every single year that I do something, I want to get a little bit better. And if you're also thinking that you don't think Pete Carroll and a guy like Spytek want to go out there and compete and also get better, then I think you're fooling yourself. I want to get better. I know the nation wants to get better. And if you want this channel to get better, hit that subscribe button. We at least got to get to 420. 420. Maybe that's a little bit too high hopes, but I believe in us that we can do it. Let's go to pick number 6 here. Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, and this is an A grade. The other way that I like to grade, though, is you don't just look at the person that the Raiders ended up picking. I think you got to look at the complete picture, and the picture is clear to me. This organization wants to build around this young man right here. They went out, they got a lot of players that are going to focus on helping make sure that Jeanty is the best running back that this team possibly could ask for. I know that the Raiders really value the trenches. They went out and they got 2 offensive linemen to give you extra depth help. You went out, you got a wide receiver that likes to block. You went out, and you got a wide receiver that likes to take the top off of defense. We know that Ashton Jeanty can be a special player. We know that Ashton Jeanty is a special player. But ultimately, what it really matters when you take a running back that high is when you can build around him. And I do think the Raiders did a good job in the NFL draft building around Ashton Jeanty. For that reason, it's an A grade to me. Let's go to round 2, pick number 58. I'm going to give Jack Bech, wide receiver from TCU, a B grade. Originally, when I saw the pick come in, I said C plus, B minus. But now when you see the picture that the Raiders are trying to paint, you go out and you get a receiver that's a really good blocker. I think somebody that's going to be a nice number 2 complement to Jacoby Myers. On top of that, some of the best hands in this class dropped only 1 ball this past season. And to me, I think the Raiders have in mind the type of receiver that they're looking for. A physical wide receiver that might not be the best athlete, but does exactly what you ask him to do, and he's going to be able to win some of those 50-50 balls. He's going to be a tough mother effer. I think Jacoby Myers and Jack Bech are very similar. And, you know, it's almost funny. The Raiders did this pick, and there was another receiver from Arkansas who was also regarded as one of the best pass-catching wide receivers that block, and his name was Tesla. He actually ended up going off the board at 70. I think the NFL is a copycat league, and if you like what the Raiders did, I think that it also means that you probably like what the Philadelphia Eagles and Detroit Lions have done, because the Raiders draft is, I think, very similar to what Philadelphia and Detroit has tried to do over the past few seasons. So this is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show, and I imagine, I already kind of know probably where most of the answers are going to go, but y'all are about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. What is the best pick for the Las Vegas Raiders in this year's draft? It's Ashton Jeanty, and he was the best player on the board. There was a lot of people that said he was the number 1 overall player, you know, on some overall boards. But to me, Ashton Jeanty was this team's best pick. Only 21 years old, an absolute stud on and off the field. Hell, could have made an argument that he should have ended up winning the Heisman. If he gets better and better like he's done his past 3 seasons at Boise, I can't wait to see what he's able to do in 2025. The hope is that he is the Rookie of the Year, and the hope is that he's the best running back in the NFL in the next 2 to 3 years. Let's go to round 3, pick number 68. And I honestly believe if the Raiders were to draft Darien Porter at 58 and Jack Bech at 68, people would be like, oh, I like this draft a lot better. To me, Darien Porter is an A grade, being able to get him there at that value. 6'2", 195 pound, 18 tackles, 3 interceptions, 5 PBUs. He was targeted only 17 times last season, and he's played in college football for 6 years. Converted wide receiver, now a corner. I believe in Pete Carroll because he's always done a great job with very long and lanky athletic corners, and that's exactly what Porter is going to be able to bring to the table here. I'm really curious to see how he's going to be able to fit with Eric Stokes and Ja'Cory and Bennett. I do love the upside here in that pick, but I love the blend of players that the Raiders went with, guys that that aren't going to miss. Then you got guys with some upside, like Jack Bech, I think is much safer of a pick than what people realize, and I think Darien Porter is a very high upside corner overall. Let's go to the next pick here. It's Caleb Rogers at number 98. Rodgers is going to be the lowest grade that I give. I'm just going to tell you that right from the jump. It's a C- grade for me. The fact that also they went with another offensive lineman, and then we'll talk about him here in just a moment. But Rodgers, to me, does give you a lot of versatility. And I do think by going out and getting him, it's probably bad news for somebody along the lines of Thayer Munford. But this is somebody that's played left tackle, left guard, right tackle. He does wear that C on his chest. He is a team captain. But I just don't see a lot of high upside here. And now maybe Tom likes him a little bit more. He got him at 119. I actually thought that Caleb Rogers was a offensive lineman that could have potentially went in round 5, but you're looking for durability, and that's what Rogers is going to bring. And I think for the Raiders last season, let's face it, they had a lot of injuries, and we were super banged up by the end of the year. I think Rogers is one of those dudes, in case you have some injuries on the offensive line, you got somebody that can play 4 different offensive line positions, because the last thing that you want is to not have a great line, or at least deep offensive line, because then it kind of takes away from you taking a running back at pick number 6. Let's go to the next one here at pick 99, Charles Grant. I'm going to give a B grade. I just like Grant as a prospect a little bit more than I like Rodgers. And quite frankly, I think the Raiders have a good enough offensive line with some of the players that they have where you didn't necessarily need to go with Rodgers. But for Grant, another captain, 6'4", 309 pounds, a 90.7 overall PFF grade. Charles Grant absolutely dominated his opponents in college football, playing at a little bit of a lesser school. Let's just be real. Predominantly has played on the left side. But to me, this is a good fit. And it's a good fit because he clearly is a good fit in a zone blocking scheme, which is exactly what Chip Kelly is going to do. But if he can add a little bit more mass, I think Charles Grant could be one of these players. We go back and we look at this draft and go, man, one of the best values that the Raiders got is Charles frickin' Grant. We're about to get into the day 3 grades here in just a moment. Before we do, skies out, thighs out. Shout out to our sponsor, Chubbies. And I'll tell you this, man, summer, it's right around the corner. Springtime is here, and I love me some Chubbies shorts. And because springtime is right here and summer's right around the corner, it's time to upgrade your wardrobe. So sweeten the deal for a limited time. Chubbies is giving our listeners 20% off your order with our exclusive code. Use code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com. Chubbies offers a variety of high-quality men's apparel, from super stretchy shorts and swim trunks and 3 short inseam lengths to pants, polos, button-down shirts for when you need to hit up your favorite weekend brunch spot. Embrace the spirit of endless summer with Chubbies, the ultimate destination for bold, vibrant, and outrageously comfortable clothing. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners 20% off your order with our exclusive code. Use code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com. I love me some Chubby shorts. I'm not afraid to admit it, but I like my legs, and I can remember many years ago when Chubbies was first sponsoring us, I had the 4-inch Hawaiian swim trunks, and everybody was like, dude, Mitch, I love the things that they look great, man. I can just know that Chubbies has really grown with us for a long time at Chat Sports, so I really appreciate them. So whether you're getting dressed for your workday, a workout, or a weekend getaway, Chubbies has you covered. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving our viewers 20% off your order with our code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com. That is code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com. Support our show. Tell them that we sent you. Don't blend in the crowd. Stand out with Chubbies. And I mean it, man. Like, if you're somebody where you put in the time and the effort to work out your legs, you know what? I think you should rock some Chubby shorts. Probably would look great. This might be a weird thing to say, but at 6'5", this guy's got some long legs. Dante Thornton Jr. I'm going to give this a B- grade, and the reason why I'm going to go ahead and give this a B- grade is because if you were to look at it just the pick and the pick alone, I don't think that he should have gone in the 4th round. But if you look at the bigger picture, that's why I gave it a B+. If I was just looking at the pick and the pick alone, probably a C based on where he went. But because of the fit, you draft Ashton Jeanty, you go out and you get a wide receiver in Bech who's going to be a good blocker. You then get some offensive linemen, and then you have somebody that can take the top off of a defense. I mean, at the press conference for the Raiders, they literally said this was the Al Davis pick because at 6'5", runs a 4.3 40. Thornton said he models his game after Calvin Johnson. Does have a limited route tree. He averaged 21.9 yards per catch, but you also got to be able to realize, like, I think one of the biggest problems that the Raiders have had is because a lot of their other receivers aren't speedsters. You've had teams that stack the box, and you don't want teams that stack the box because you got Ashton Jeanty. But because of Trey Tucker and Dante Thornton's speed, you have to respect that, which is going to create more one-on-one opportunities for Brock Bowers, Jack Bech, Jacoby Myers, and when you combine all of that together, I think the Dante Thornton Jr. pick might not be somebody that gets a lot of stats, but he's going to be able to show up in the stat sheet for other players. Tonka Hemingway, I'm going to give this a B grade. I think it's a good defensive tackle player. I thought that the Raiders would go DT, and obviously they went with 2 defensive tackles, but the key word is always going to be versatility. And for a dude, along the lines of Tonka Hemingway, who is a really good athlete, has an 84 overall athleticism score on NFL.com, because I believe in Rob Leonard and I believe in Patrick Graham being able to add some of that extra talent. And again, you got to look at the entire picture. To me, one of the things that the Raiders proved to me was they're going to add players at other positions to make sure their stars are great. Jack Bech, Thornton, or to make sure that Ashton Jeanty is great. I think you added Tonka Hemingway to really help make sure that Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, and Adam Butler, Malcolm Kuntz is great. And he's not somebody that I think is going to light up, again, a stat sheet. He could play edge. He could play defensive tackle. You can move him in a bunch of different ways, but another really solid player that coaches rant and rave about. No 5th-round pick. The next pick coming up here, I'm going to give a B-plus grade, and is J.J. Pegues, defensive tackle from Ole Miss. And this is another just great football player. And when I tell you the way that I think the Raiders are going to use him, 42 tackles, look at that, 14 tackles for loss, and really thick player overall. Provides, again, a little bit more of like a nose tackle feel, has some versatility. They line him up at edge because he's a good athlete. So you line him up at edge. He plays a little defensive tackle, bigger body, 6 foot, 310 pounds. But again, what do? They go out and they get somebody. And I wonder, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that values Saquon Barkley, values the trenches on the offense and the defense, and you go out and you get somebody that could be a new tush pusher. What do I mean? Pegues was used in short yardage situations for Ole Miss. He had 21 carries. Out of the 21 carries that he had, 18 of those resulted in a touchdown or a first down. You got to have a lot of confidence in a player, and another guy that, yet again, is proven is a great locker room guy. This is where it gets fun, man. Tommy Mellot, they listed him as a wide receiver. Also in the press conference, the Raiders director of college scouting said, we won't limit him to just wide receiver. They could potentially use him as a kick returner. They also said they could potentially use him as a quarterback for practice, but I believe this is going to be a wide receiver move. 31 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He was the FCS Heisman Trophy winner, competed in the national championship game up against North Dakota State, who's, funny enough, now his teammate. But what's really cool about this, one of the notes on him is his RAS score. RAS score, the highest you can get, is a 10.0. He scored a 9.69, so that is in the 96th percentile of all wide receivers to ever come out of the NFL Combine. Think about how athletic that is. The player that the NFL has comped to him, Julian Edelman. So Julian Edelman was also a former quarterback, converted wide receiver, and best friends with Tom Brady. I think the way that the Raiders are going to use Tommy Mellot is the exact same way that Julian Edelman was used on all those Patriot Tom Brady teams. So be honest with me. You're going to have some picks you like. You're going to have some picks that you don't like, and that's totally okay. That's part of the NFL draft, and I want you to always know that this is going to be a show where you can express your frustrations, you can express your excitement, and I hope that we can all have an adult conversation down in the comments, right? So the worst pick, I would say, that the Raiders made in this year's draft, I'm just going to go with Caleb Rogers because I thought there were some other players on the board that we could have potentially went with. And again, I liked our offensive line a little bit more, but if you would have told me, maybe we could have gone and gotten a linebacker. Maybe we could have gone and gotten a safety, 2 positions that I'll still say were a little bit weakened. So because of that, Caleb Rogers, where I think the weak spot is, and those are the other positions that I'm still a little bit curious about. And we'll see how some of these UDFAs end up signing. Let's go to 215, round 6, Cam Miller. The key word here when you look at Cam Miller and Mellot is compete. And that's something that, Pete Carroll says over and over and over again. And Cam Miller and Tommy Mellot ended up going up against each other in the FCS FCS championship game. I think Miller is going to be brought in here to help go out there and compete with Aiden O'Connell. He did have a top 30 visit with the Raiders, but this is another player that's got 4 years of college football experience. And yeah, he doesn't have the arm strength. He doesn't really, I think, have the talent to get it done in the NFL, but there is value in having really good backup quarterbacks. And I don't know what the ceiling is for Cam Miller, but I do think his floor is pretty damn good. And when you're going out there and you're competing, Aiden O'Connell, Cam Miller, and Geno Smith, I think that's a damn good quarterback room. The final pick here for the Raiders draft, Cody Lindenberg, linebacker from Minnesota. When you're this late in the draft, I want guys that I know that can also play special teams, and I need some captains. He was a very highly regarded player, a green dot player, and another dude that's going to be able to provide some special teams ability. 243 special team snaps, 94 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and a sack last season. Cody Lindenberg's not the greatest athlete, somebody that I thought could potentially have been a 7th round, maybe a UDFA player, but really instinctive, and you can just tell that he recognizes where the play is going to go. I do also think that this is another really good dude in terms of sideline to sideline speed, is a much better of an athlete when he gets his body moving, I would say north and south, and really makes that decision. Does have some production, which you like to see, but he's going to go out there and he's going to be able to compete with Tommy Eichenberg. He's going to compete with Amari Burney and Amari Gaynor, hell, Devin White. I would say the only linebacker that I know for sure is going to be starting on this team is going to end up being, in fact, a Landon Roberts. So that's the Raiders draft, man. What a freaking day. What a freaking weekend. We were live for over 30. That's a lot. We were live for over 22 hours on the Raiders Report, and we've had more people watch the Raiders Report draft than we ever had before, so it was an A for the draft for what we did. In terms of what the Raiders did, John Spytek, Pete Carroll, before you get my answer on this Raiders draft, I want you to give me your answer. A, B, C, D, or F. How would you grade the Raiders 2025 NFL draft? For me, I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to confidently give this a B-plus draft. I think it is a good draft that has the potential to be an excellent draft, depending on how a few other players potentially materialize. But there's the one common ground is this. They brought in dudes that are great football players. They brought in guys that absolutely love the sport. They're going to go out there and they're going to compete, and you can clearly see they're trying to get a good group of human beings to get this thing going in the right direction in the next 2 to 3 years. Pete Carroll, John Spytek, very proud of this draft class. To the new players that are going to be wearing the silver and black, make sure you wear it with pride because the nation really, really loves and is going to buy into y'all, but at the exact same time, you put your heart on the line, and as JPJ said, you play for the team on the front. That way it blesses the team on the back. Great job, Pete. Great job, Carroll. Let's go win some football games.